Okay, so we're officially running. Okay, so we're basically gonna continue our discussion from yesterday. We talked about exponent rules, the first part of it, multiplying same bases with exponents, right? And we found that we had to add those exponents. Now, I also wanted to talk about how negatives affect exponents, okay? So first we're gonna talk about how exponents affect negatives. And then we're going to talk about negative exponents and how that works as well. So first of all, how do exponents affect negatives? Remember, an exponent, I'm going to even, this is so important to understand, I'm going to actually write it down here. Exponents only affect what they are next to. Okay? Whoop, next to. Don't ever end with a preposition. But I did. Okay? So that's why I'm a math teacher. Okay? So how exponents affect negatives? Every exponent only affects what it's next to. What is the exponent here in A next to?
Negative 4.
Nope. I know that's what it looks like.
A 4.
It's next to a 4. It is not next to the negative. It's next to the 4. So the exponent is only affecting the 4. It is not affecting the negative at all. Does that make sense? So what that means is I'm going to have to put the negative, because the exponent does not affect the negative. It only affects the 4. So I've got to keep the negative there. You with me? This is really important. And then what's 4 squared? 4 times 4.
16.
Right? 16. Now some people would say, that's weird, because negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. But this is what you were just, what that would be. Negative 4 times negative 4 is this, where the square, the exponent, is next to a parenthesis that includes the negative sign. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So suddenly it is, the base here is negative 4 squared. The base here is 4 squared. The base is 4. And the negative is in front, meaning the negative stays in the answer. And then 4 squared goes here, right after the negative, right? Here, though, this means negative 4 times negative 4, which is what?
16.
Positive 16, right, exactly. You see the difference? Does that make sense?
Like if they have parentheses.
Well, we'll get there. Maybe. I mean, at least if it's an even exponent, that's true. If it's an even exponent, that's true. So what would this be? I've got negative 8 raised to the 10th power.
Would it be 8 times 8 times 8 times... Oh, wait.
What is it next to? It's next to the 8, not the negative sign. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So the negative sign is going to have to stay. My exponent is not even affecting the negative sign at all, period. You see that?
Yeah.
It's only affecting the 8. So 8 to the 10. I'm not going to figure out that, right? When they're hard like that, you just keep it as 8 to the 10th with the power. Okay, do you see that? See this? Now here, though, I have negative 8 inside parentheses. The exponent is next to the parentheses. That means it affects, that exponent affects everything inside the parentheses.
So it's 8 to the 10.
So now it is
equals negative 1,073,741,820.
Okay, so let's think about this for 1 second. If, thanks. If you have a negative 8 multiplied times a negative 8, okay, let's try this. Negative 8 times negative 8, is that positive or negative?
Wait,
So when I have a negative times negative is a positive, right? A negative times negative and a negative, if I had 3, if I had, let's just do this. If I had negative 8 squared, it would be positive. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
If I had negative 8 cubed, it would be negative. If I had negative 8 to the 4th, it would be positive again. If I had negative 8
No, it's a positive. I already see. It's
to the 5th, It's going to be negative. So what's the pattern? So Rowan, what do you see?
Numbers are positive and odd numbers are negative.
Oh,
So yeah, so when the exponents.
1,73,741,824.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So when the exponent though affects, when it's next to a parenthesis and what's inside the parenthesis is negative, that exponent, if it's even, notice it's going to be positive. It turns that negative sign inside the parenthesis positive. Because whenever you have an even number of things, they cross out. Negative times negative is a positive. And another negative times negative is a positive. And another negative times negative is a positive. So whenever they're even, they cross out. Therefore, this is going to be positive. Negative 8 to the fourth, the 4 exponent is a even number. So that's going to be positive. What's negative 8 in parentheses to the 22nd? Is that going to be negative or positive? Positive, right? Because 22nd power is an even number. Does everybody understand this? Just a 5? Sort of? Whenever you have, let's see how, did I explain this once like a while back when we were talking about multiplying and stuff? Forget about the exponents for a second. Remember I said negative times a negative is equal to a positive, right?
Yeah.
But what if I said there was something that had 3 negatives? A negative and a negative and a negative. It would be a negative, right? And a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative would be a positive, right? And a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative, meaning odd, would be a negative again. Whenever you have an even number of negatives multiplied times each other, you get a positive. Whenever you have an odd number of negatives multiplied or divided by each other, you get a negative. Whenever you have an even number of negatives, you get a positive. An odd number, you get a negative. You remember this? Okay? Well, that happens with exponents. Because exponents is just creating this. I have a negative 8, a negative number. You don't have to worry about the 8 for a second. Just think of it as a negative number, and it's being squared, meaning it's going to be a negative times a negative. That's an even, right? Even number, it's going to be positive, right? When you cube it, a negative times a negative times a negative, that's an odd number. It's going to be a negative. You see what I'm saying? So exponents will do that. So you can see the exponents, how they are going to affect. And that way we immediately know that the answer is going to be positive or negative, right? So this, so this one right here, this was the original problem. What's it going to be, positive or negative? It's going to be positive, right? And then, so I don't need to write the negative 8 anymore. It's now 8 to the 10th. Does that make sense? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
The idea with math is to keep it simple, right? Right? The idea is to keep it simple. And to me, this is simpler. 8 to the 10th is simpler than negative 8 in parentheses to the 10th. You follow me?
Yeah.
Now, this is, well, here, we'll do another one. Let's do, somebody had a question, Ron.
Wait,
Or
so
Steve.
this is kind of like a weird question, but say you have a decimal like 8.2.
Yeah.
Would it be the same thing? Like if it was 8.3, would it be negative, or if it was like 8.2?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the number is. Like if I had 8.3, that doesn't matter. It matters that the negative sign is being raised to an even number.
What if the exponent had a decimal?
We had a what?
Decimal. Like,
Oh, if the exponent has a decimal, let's not go there quite yet. It's a great question. It's a great question. I'll get there eventually, but not quite yet. Okay. All right. So I'm going to erase this mess so that it doesn't confuse people. All right. So now let's look at this one. What's the answer to number E? What?
My hometown.
Say what?
My home.
So does the exponent affect the negative sign?
What?
yes, it does.
So yeah, there's not much I can do. The negative stays because the exponent doesn't affect it, and then it's 7 to the 11th. Now what about this one?
That one doesn't.
The exponent is an odd number. It does affect this, except that because it's odd, it stays negative. You follow me? So I could just write it as negative, and then 7 to the 11th. You follow me? Does it make sense? All right, what about this one? What would that be?
That would be negative 2 to the 23rd power.
Right, negative 2 to the 23rd power. Because that does not affect the negative. It's the negative stays, and then it's just 2 to the 23rd. This does affect the negative, but it's odd.
So it's negative.
So it's going to stay negative, and then I'm going to just write the 2 to the 23rd. That would be the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now we have 9 minutes to talk about them. Can I erase this?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to talk about another type of negative that you might see. So, so this is number 2. How to simplify negative exponents. Okay, how to simplify negative exponents. All right. There is there's a rule. Remember I told you yesterday we're talking about shortcuts? So I'm giving you shortcut rules, and you'll understand this more soon, but let me just show it to you. The rule is something like a to the negative n, okay? In other words, a is any number, and the exponent is any exponent that's negative, right? A to the negative n is equal to 1 over a to the positive n. Now that's weird. A to the negative n is equal to 1 over a to the positive n. Now it's not that hard.
Wait,
once you get it, you're gonna find it's pretty easy. What if I asked you to simplify this? So this will be my letter A. So we got x to the negative 4. What would it be? Using this rule, what would it be?
Go.
Yes, I
It'd be 1
over x to the positive 4. Wow. So
Would you always do
now the reason for this is there's a rule in math that says, okay, this is a rule. This is rule number 2, I guess, because that's another rule. But here's the rule. It says never. This is in technical terms. This is in technical terms. Okay. This is the way you'll see it in a textbook. Never, ever, 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 ever
Why, Gary?
leave
math class.
a final answer
Undone.
with
Oh my god.
a
fraction.
negative
Numero.
exponent.
Bro,
So write that
let's
down.
break some
Write that
rules.
down. It's really important. If that's not in your notes, write them down. That's real important.
Never, ever.
Say ever. Never ever say ever.
Right? That's almost verbatim from the textbook. I mean, you've read those kind of textbooks, right? All right. So never, ever, 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 ever leave a final answer with a negative exponent. Now, does that mean does that mean it's not okay to have a negative exponent as you're working?
No.
No, it's totally fine. Negative exponents exist. But your final answer should not have a negative exponent in it. Does that make sense?
Yes,
You
sir.
get that? All right. So that was easy. Let's try another one. What if I gave you x to the negative 10? What would it be?
X
1 over x to the positive 10. All right? So let me explain what actually is happening, okay? So guys, over here you guys are doing a lot of talking, okay? So just listen for a second. So if, I'm going to explain this. Oh, have a seat. Ooh, oh. I'm going to explain this in another way just so you can see it, all right? So if I rewrote this, x to the negative 10, and I said, okay, that's not a fraction, is it? This is a fraction, but that's not, am I right? All right, let's make this a fraction. How do I make that a fraction?
You put a 1.
Yeah, put it over 1, right? Don't you agree with me?
Yeah.
That's the fraction, all right? So now, whenever you have a negative exponent, this is my fraction line. Do you agree with me? In order to change a negative exponent into a positive exponent, all you have to do is move it across this fraction line. Right? So meaning I could go like this. I could move this downstairs and it makes that exponent positive. But what's going to have to stay upstairs? What's the number in front of the x?
1.
A hidden 1. So that stays upstairs. So upstairs I have a 1. And downstairs, just by bringing it across this fraction line, it changes its sign to positive. Okay? Now I could go backwards. If I put it across the fraction line again and it's a positive exponent, it becomes a negative exponent. Right? If it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive.
So if it's a denominator, then it's positive.
Not necessarily. I mean, I could do that. I could do this. I could say 1 over x to the negative 3, right? I could. Guys. All right. 1 over x to the negative 3. I don't want that negative exponent, so I could bring it upstairs, right? And that becomes x to the positive 3 over 1, which is just x to the positive 3. You with me? All I'm doing is moving anything that has a negative exponent across the fraction line. That's it. And it becomes positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A little bit? It'll make more sense as we move forward, but for now. All right. So let's just do a few and make sure we are used to it. We're almost done here. C. What if I gave you, let me give you a problem. Let's say I gave you this. No, before I do that. Let's try this. 5x to the negative 4. All right. Do we have a negative exponent? Do we have a negative exponent?
I know what you do.
Yes.
You do equals and you do 5 over x to the 4.
Yeah, so notice this rule, right? Remember this rule. Exponents only affect what they're next to. What is the exponent next to?
X.
It's the x. So the exponent only affects the x, it does not affect the 5.
Can you just add?
So look at this. I'm gonna just create a fraction for a second, and I'm realizing, oh, the x to the negative 4 goes downstairs. The 5 has to stay upstairs, right? So suddenly that gives me 5. The 5 just stays where it is because the negative 4 doesn't affect the 5. But it only affects the x, so I'm bringing the x down and it becomes a positive 4. Right? You see that?
Yep.
Okay, let's try another one. So D. All right, how about 25x to the negative 11? Right?
You do 25.
So 25, the only thing that the negative 11 affects is the x. So I'm just going to put 25, and I'm going to keep it where it is.
Over x to the 11.
But I'm going to bring this x to the 11, x to the negative 11 down, so it'll be x to the positive 11. Right?
Right.
Make sense? All right, so now, can I erase some of this?
Yeah. No, not all of it. Don't listen to Raven. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Raven's evil.
Can I erase C? Can I erase C?
Yeah.
Lisa, go first.
All right,
Go first.
C, D, E. All right, here we go, guys. Listen. All right, what if I gave you this? 4x to the negative 3 times 2x to the negative 7. All right, what would I do? I use my commutative by moving. Commutative, I commute. 2 times 4 is what? 8. So I write my 8 first. Now it's x to the negative 3 times x to the negative 7. Combine those. Negative 3
X to
plus
the
negative
negative
7.
10.
X to the negative 10, right? Okay, so from here I get this. Now from here I go one step further. That equals
It's
what?
8 over
8 over
x to the 10.
x to the positive 10.
That's exciting.
Exactly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this
See?
is easy.
All right, E, F. All right, all right. What if I gave you, that's good enough, actually. We'll do one more. So, 3x to the negative 2 times 2x to the negative 4 times x to the negative 6.
It's 6x to the negative 12.
So 3 times 2 is 6.
It's
And then x to the negative 2 and negative 4 is negative 6. And negative 6 is negative 12.
And then it would be 6 over x to the 12.
You got it. Beautiful.
Easy peasy.
Awesome. Okay.
Boy.
So that's basically it. I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing off.